All right. Three, two, one. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a Hoops Journey. We got a special edition little bonus episode with a guy who's on he's becoming a bit of a staple in the pod, whether people like it or not. And it's been a while. We haven't connected on the pod since the Olympics when me and him and Larkins were well, two of us pretending like we know what we were talking about in the Olympics, and one probably a little more. I did have the opportunity to see this gentleman, which I was thinking about like 5 months ago, almost to the weekend. Popped down to Portland, caught the Jazz in a really terrible game. You guys were up like 30 in the first quarter, but we're gonna chop it up, just kind of catch up on life, and then Coach Morrison here has got some really cool initiatives and things happening that we really wanted to highlight. As an educator, someone whose son is neurodivergent. These are important things, and the awareness is great. And there's lots of dope things happening. And some of our listeners hopefully take the opportunity to get on the auctions and kind of just gain more knowledge about what's happening. But how are you, my friend? How's everything?
Things are going pretty good. Wish we were in the playoffs, like all the teams that are not playing do, but
Hmm.
there are some benefits to not being in the playoffs. One is you can plan a vacation. So we just got back from Hawaii with our family for a week. We have
Yeah.
this little spot in Koalina that we like to go to. It's actually way easier to get to Hawaii than PEI. So I'm not looking forward to the travel later in the summer when we do go back home. And then just cleaning up some stuff from the postseason, getting ready for our off-season work here. We got some players in the building today for the first time since we finished, so it's kind of nice to just maybe turn the page to looking towards next year.
What's the difference? Is Utah to Hawaii just one flight? Like you got to take two or three? Is it a full day to get to PEI?
PEI is ridiculous, probably to get to from a lot of places, not just here. Hawaii is a 6-hour direct flight with a red eye coming back, so we pretty smooth coming back. Kids slept, and I got to watch finally the Bob Dylan movie with Chalamet.
And
I liked it.
yeah.
I didn't really know about that part of Bob Dylan's story. It kind of centered around the first part, and then when he switched to from like a pure folk singer to more of a, I guess, rock with electric guitars and such, and didn't realize he pissed so many people off by doing that. But um, I thought Chalamet was great. Like, is he like one of our last real movie stars? Dating the what's her name, and he sang like every song in the movie. He was really good. So, also a Knicks fan, like I once was.
Yep.
So a lot of good things come out of that. And then to get to PEI is crazy. Got to go through Pearson, which is strike one.
Oh God.
Probably the worst airport in North America. It's got to be up there. LAX Pearson. Um, and we obviously with two little kids, it's tougher as you can imagine traveling with a little one or multiples is tough.
Yeah.
And then you have those layovers, you have the customs. Um, so we actually usually try to stay in Toronto for a night on the way there, but on the way back, it's almost impossible. So
Damn.
long trip to PI. It's worth it when you get there. It's worth it when
Yeah,
you stay
yeah.
longer, but
Yeah, no doubt. Like we were laughing before your trip, right? It's like when you're a parent, it's like vacation is basically just parenting somewhere maybe a little warmer or with a little more swimming opportunities.
doing a little bit less work in your downtime, I guess.
Yeah, that's good. And so you guys are right back at it. Obviously, they say no rest for the wicked. Season is still going on for some, but you guys are behind the scenes now and trying to build and just wait for the draft lottery and see what happens and go from there. Um, What's your process each and out every day? Are you assigned certain guys? Are you just like, is it just collaborative meetings right now and kind of waiting, or what's going on for you on your day to day?
Well, I'll lay behind the curtain here. I actually just finished the first 2 weeks after the season. I worked on a end of season defensive report. There it is right there. It's about 70 some pages. We got some graphs, we got some colors. But I want to show you my first page, my forward, as they like to say, the authors like to say forward.
Yeah.
So we have a table of contents and then right into a forward. Now in the forward, I want to basically explain because this is for coach and for some of the front office people that a lot because of what we were doing this season, I'm not going to say the word, but we succeeded in acquiring a 14% chance at the number one pick, which in the lottery, which is next week as we're taping this. So I called that our situation. So some people will get this, some people won't. But
I
I have
was
a
just gonna say,
I have a
Mike,
pick of this of the actual situation there to explain our situation, and then it gets a little more serious after that. But
has that been handed out yet? Did anyone get the
yeah,
humor? And did they get the humor?
so it's also a test because
Yeah, where
a
you're
book
at.
this
Yeah,
size about the worst defense in the NBA is probably not the most popular read.
sure.
Um, so it's going to be a test to see who actually opens it. I just handed them
Covers
out
it.
this morning, so we'll see. Give
Yeah.
it a week or two, and then if no one comes to me, I'll point out to people that I think will find it funny, and then also laugh at myself for no one having read the report or even looked. That was my first 2 weeks. Took a week off, and now it's coach and I actually met yesterday. He just signed an extension again today as we're recording this. So uh,
Nice.
we're kind of getting organized for some changes and things like that into how we're going to approach player development and the day-to-day operations once we get going for the summer.
Good stuff. I'm still sitting on my Shea bet. I told you he was going to be the MVP. I don't know why you wouldn't listen to me, man, but I did put some money on him preseason, so I'm waiting on it.
Oh, nice. Well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's
It in
announced
your,
the series, right? It's going to be announced in the next 2 weeks.
I think so. Yeah, 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 yeah. If you were to pick someone right now, which team to you do you think has the best chance to win it? Like, who's a team that is going to be tough to get 4 games on in a series right now?
I'm still picking Boston to win. Obviously, I can't bet and things, but if someone asks me, I
Sure.
pick Boston. I think their size, experience, having two or three guys that can just go get a bucket.
Yeah.
Then you also have, because lots of teams have a guy that can get a bucket. Not every team has that plus size plus the grinders that are just winners like the Derek Whites, the Holidays.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think that OKC has two of those, but a little better this year, but lacks some size compared to Bob.
Yeah.
Um, People always think about the rebounding, but it's more about, you know, closing the gaps for driving lanes and being able to recover for closeouts. And OKC is the best at that during the season as
Mhm.
of their effort level. And that won't go away. But the thing is, in the NBA, as sad as it sounds, the teams that win a lot of games in the regular season, because in part because of their effort, often can get caught up in terms of effort because in the playoffs, everyone's playing their hardest.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing everybody is always, the things that I've listened to, everyone touches on OKC and kind of their lack of experience. How much do you think that really is a factor when it comes to the playoffs? I mean, obviously, Boston's experience, they've won it, right? So, and, had multiple runs. Do you think it's still that big of a factor in today's NBA? Is it a little bit of both? What do you think?
Well, I'm pretty high on OKC too. I think it's going to be them in Boston in the final. I guess
Not the T-Wolves, huh?
no. I don't think the T-Wolves are gonna beat them. I think that the T-Wolves have a couple of holes that can be exposed. Um, and OKC is a pretty smart and talented team that might be the ones to do it. I do think Minnesota's going to beat the Warriors.
Hmm.
So
There we go.
you have another 3 or 4 weeks to go before you can
Yeah.
join us over here. I don't know. I think I've always been one of these people that in all sports, for whatever reason, I'm going to sound like our buddy Larkins when I say this, but like I feel like there's no statistical analytical backing to it, but just you have to get somewhere once to get over the hump again. So, for example, Boston got to the finals against Golden State. When I was there, we kept getting to the conference finals, couldn't quite get over that hump.
Hmm.
Um, but I think the experience that we had helped them later. And then I think it's the same in kind of all sports. Getting to somewhere and losing doesn't guarantee you're going to win the next time.
Yeah.
But I think if you have it, it can be very helpful. Now, like I said, there's no real rhyme or reason for me saying that, but I think if
Hmm.
OKC can get there this year, um, a lot of things will happen where they could make a little run,
Yeah.
in the next 5 years. I'm not sure if Boston's gonna be able to keep their team together, for example,
True.
the amount of money that's going to cost to do that.
Hmm.
So we'll see, but we'll see.
We will. And then this last question before we, chat a little more about to the max and all that stuff. Thoughts on the Gordie Herbert hire? Personally, he's been on the pod, get to know him a little bit. I'm kind of excited. I think it's a good follow up to what we have, and I think he'll bring some things that we need. So, what are your thoughts early on with that? Obviously, you've been involved with the national team for a long time now, at many levels.
Yeah, I think I know Coach a little bit. I've talked to him a few times, and I've met him maybe once or twice. But I've also followed his career, being I'm not young anymore, but at one point in time, I was a young Canadian coach, so I followed guys like him and Jay Triano and those guys. So I think it was a really good hire. I know Canada basketball places a lot of value on FIBA experience
Hmm.
as a head coach, for example, and he's won basically the
Hmm.
second biggest FIBA tournament. You could argue he won the biggest tournament with the World Cup. Um,
Agree.
because there's more teams in it. There's always a few really good countries that miss out on the Olympics because of the numbers of teams that can actually qualify for Olympics.
Hmm.
You could argue that winning the World Cup is actually tougher than winning the Olympics. So he's won that with Germany. I think he won a Euro Cup or a Euro basket as well with Germany. So as you know, as the requirements are laid out for that box to be checked, he checks the box better than anybody.
Hmm.
And he's been successful with a bunch of different teams, pro teams and things like that. So I think it'll be a really good hire, and hopefully myself and a couple other guys that are working in the NBA get a chance to be on the staff and kind of learn from his expertise at the international level, and that make us better coaches, and in turn kind of build our, I guess, national coaching repertoire to be deeper and in the future have more guys like him that we could call on.
Do you see any sort of gap closing between obviously the rules and how the game is played at the NBL was so different, but there's so many European players, international players now in the NBA. Is it trending a little bit in FIBA, or is it just because the way things are laid out and it's a different rules, shot clock, that kind of thing, that it's the gap is still far?
I don't think it's as big of a gap as maybe people think. I
Mm,
think there is, value in having the experience of coaching those games, especially late games. The timeout rules are different, the foul rules are a little bit different, things like that. I think it's, if you're a good coach in the NBA or a good player in the NBA, you should be able to catch up quick.
hmm.
Maybe the guys who play those rules all year long have a bit of an advantage in the short term. But I would like to think that we could all catch up, players and coaches with experience. That's, I guess, our goal when we bring the NBA guys into play for the World Cup and try to get some of the younger guys to play this summer, for example, with the AmeriCup, and get more coaches involved with those kind of tournaments. Um, but if it was really that big of a gap, the U.S. wouldn't still be winning when they have their best players. So I think the talent level is still the most important thing, and I think what's even more important than our coaching or our understanding of FIBA is our grassroots. And I'll be the first to admit I'm not really sure where our grassroots is. Like, do we have a bunch of Wiggins and Shays and Jamal Murray's coming up the ranks? I don't know. Hopefully we do. But I think that stuff's still the most important when it comes to, you know, measuring up against the top countries in the world.
Love it. Good analysis. Look at this guy. And then hopefully Europe find yourself on that staff learning and developing would be really dope to see. And you could reconnect with your guy DePoe, get him out there, you know? Hey.
Yeah. Hopefully the Blue Jays won't win, so I don't have to hear that from him. Um, Or
Awesome.
I don't actually know if James is a Leafs fan, but obviously
Oh,
things are in Toronto for camp, and in Toronto's people's minds, the Canada ends just outside Oshawa.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I can get across the border, and then in that border again,
Yeah.
there'll be a lot of Leafs fans around. So hopefully they don't.
The double border.
Yeah, the double border. Um,
Well, let's talk about why we're chatting today, man. I mean, you know, young as a young man, you meet someone in your life, you get married, you talk about what do we want to do? Do we want to have a family? You decide to have a family. You're a coach, a full-time coach. bouncing around different spots and people that know your story, or maybe don't, just give a little bit of background of kind of how you sort of ended up into Utah, a place like Utah, after, great opportunity in Australia, being in the NBA. For those that haven't checked out your original episode, it's a great, great story. It's one of my favorite pods for sure on a hoops journey. And then let's just talk a little bit more about To the Max and what's coming up down the pipe for people to be able to reach out, support, bid on some auctions, really, 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 really cool auction items, and also gain some more knowledge as to what's happening behind the scenes for the Morrison family.
Yeah, sure. No, I appreciate it. So I guess I'll just pick it up from where we were in Australia. I know I've been
Hmm.
on since then, but we did I call it a gap year. I think that's the right term.
That's correct. Yes. Yep.
When we were let go in Boston and then had a year kind of to kill. We were planning to go to Australia for more than a year and coach in Perth, where I coached the Wildcats for a season. While we were there, our son Max, who at the time had just turned two, he turned two while we were quarantining in a hotel there, late October. So he sh started to show, I guess, some regression in his development
Mhm.
and some signs that perhaps there was something going on. I really knew nothing about autism or um, really any developmental things, as a first-time parent and uh, stuff you don't, I guess, think about. But we kind of determined that perhaps he was autistic, and we took him to some places, some doctors there, and it was a pretty scary time. As any parent that's gone through this would know, it's tough to learn that maybe he does have, or he's not, I guess, neurotypical is the better way to put it,
Yep.
because you don't plan for that. And then to go through the testing processes and different things to rule other things out, like for example, could he hear? Was he deaf? No, okay. I was actually out of town. My wife had to take him to do an MRI in Australia, and that was a scary time too.
Mhm.
He has something wrong with his brain, things like that. So we ruled out a lot of things, which was good, and then kind of determined that he was probably autistic. The problem with where we were in Australia was hard to get diagnosis there. And if you did get diagnosed, your therapy options were pretty limited. So we decided that we had to get out of there and come back to North America for him. The owners of the team at the time were very understanding, and some would say they're probably happy to get rid of me, but actually they did try to keep me around, and tried to help Max out, more
Yeah.
important, but it just wasn't set up for us there. So we
I always find that part of your journey so interesting. Like when people ask, or like I share something from you or To the Max, and they kind of ask more about you, and I share your story. Because Australia seems like such a progressive place, right? And I just found that when you made that decision, then that was why. It was like obviously any parent would make that choice, right, to give their kid the
Yeah.
best opportunity. But a place like that, I'm like, really? So I just always find that very, very interesting, and probably something you all never even processed as well until it was, in your laps, right?
For sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I shouldn't. I don't want to shit on Australia. It was a lot of
No, no, no,
I
no,
actually
no. That's not
loved it there, and they have a lot of good things going. No,
absolutely.
I think the issue was, and it's an issue in North America too, how the speed
Hmm.
at which you can get a child diagnosed with autism, for example, because the early diagnosis is a big thing for
Hmm.
to help them get going in the right therapy, get the right stuff happening. Part of it was because we were not residents, so the even the
Okay.
cost of what they did have available was insane. That's where the team would have helped us if we could have gotten the right resources, right, I guess therapist, therapy, whatever.
Gotcha.
Um, and then I think our state, we were in Western Australia. That was the province or state that we were in, and they were behind some of the other states, or their I guess rules or whatever it was a little bit behind. Had we
Mm.
been in Melbourne or Sydney, maybe it would have been different,
Okay.
but that's where we were. So after the fact, like fast forward a year or two, and we'll get to all that stuff. But I guess, once we got kind of out there with our foundation and things like that, a lot of people from Australia would message Suzanne or follow us on social media and just thank us because they were experiencing, as residents, even a hard time helping their child out. So it ended up being the right move for us. Even though I had no
Hmm.
job, we came home. We actually got him diagnosed in Cape Breton, How anybody from Cape Breton would know if someone was neurodivergent, I have no idea. That's a maritime joke. I'm just kidding.
I was gonna make a joke, but I was like, you can make it.
Um, but so I actually swore when I left Dalhousie in 2004, I swore I would never go back to Cape Breton. I had no fun memories there as a player or coach. It's a tough place to win and play, and winter in Sydney is not exactly Hawaii where we just were. So anyway, life comes full circle. Glad I got to go back to Cape Breton because that's where we were able to get Max diagnosed the fastest. And about a week later, got offered this job in Utah. So it was like a stroke of luck because there was also some people here, Joe Ingles being one of them, who has an
Mhm.
autistic son. Now he's in Minnesota with your boys.
Yeah.
But we had kind of been connected to him through some Australian contacts, and he and his wife helped us to kind of get going in Utah, where to go, where to call, where to look. And since then, Max has been doing great. He's got a school that he goes to every day. It's a ABA therapy center. Um, they're awesome. They have all kinds of kids in there, and he's been going there now for 2.5 years. So we love it there. He's got another year there before he has to do something different. So we're enjoying that while we can. He's got a speech therapist here that's great, occupational therapist.
Mhm.
So, and we're lucky to have a good job where the healthcare is pretty good. So not everyone is that lucky.
Yeah.
Kind of leads us to the next thing, which, we were feeling very when your child's diagnosed with something like autism, you have a period of time where you just naturally feel sorry for yourself, feel sorry for them. Why is this happening to us? All those kind of thoughts go through your head. And I'm sure every parent in our situation feels the same way.
Absolutely.
But when you step back and look at the big picture, which we did after we got settled and got going, we felt pretty fortunate that A, I had this job, and B, that he had this team around him that was going to help him. So because of that, we felt we should try and do something to give back or help maybe some people that aren't quite as fortunate. I'm no real big name or anything, like even like someone like Joe Ingles would be if they
Mm.
were here. But we thought we would try to do something. So before last season, not this current season, but the previous season, I love shoes as you do. So I said, hey, why don't I try? I said to Suzanne, why don't I try to get some of the head coaches that I know around the league, which is only I know of like maybe five, six coaches at the time to wear like a custom designed pair of shoes, Air Force Ones, something like that, something easy to kind of decorate or whatever for Autism Awareness Month, which now we try to call Autism Acceptance Month in April. I got five or six coaches to agree to do it. One of which being Joe Mazzulla, had just been recently named the head coach in Boston. He's actually Max's godfather. So he was on board quick. Coach Hardy was on board quick. Coach Nurse, I knew a couple others. So anyway, long story short, the Coaches Association got wind of this plan that I had and said, "Why don't we do all 30 coaches?" I said, "Geez, that would be great. I don't know them though, so I don't know how I'm going to ask them to do it." He's like, "Oh, I'll do it." So he asked them, sent out an email to all the head coaches. Within 2 days, every head coach had responded saying they'd love to support the cause or whatever and wear the shoes. So that itself was very heartwarming for me.
No doubt.
They're so quick to kind of jump on board these guys that we try to beat, every night,
Hmm.
compete with. And then I had these stack of shoes in my office, boxes, all white Air Force Ones, trying to figure out how I was going to get them, I guess, customized or decorated. And one of our scouts came in the office, asked about the shoes. I told him what I was trying to do. He happened to have a friend in Salt Lake who has an autistic daughter who's one of the top shoe customizers in the world, really. JSM 801 is his handle. So I met John and Linda, his wife. They were excited to come on board, and now this is the second year we've done this program. All the head coaches wore the shoes for basically a week in April. All the This year we doubled down and sent some to media, like ESPN guys wore them, TNT, so forth, a few influencers just to get the word out more. And just like last year, we're going to auction them off, signed versions of or signed game worn coaches' shoes through Sotheby's in the middle of May. So May 13th, I think, is when the auction opens. I have one of the I have one pair that hasn't been delivered yet. So Darren Williams used to play for the
Yeah.
Jets. He has some ties here. I think he has a couple businesses here. He
Oh
comes
yeah.
that he has a autistic child as well. So we
Oh
got him.
no way.
Yeah, we got him a pair of I guess old Jazz colors.
Nice. Those are sick.
And these are the same basically shoes that everyone wore, just different color schemes. This is our To the Max logo. My wife has become somewhat of an expert in this field just because trying to research as much as she can for our own son.
Hmm.
And she tries to lean on the autistic community as much as possible for feedback and ideas. And obviously, the acceptance is part of that. I mean, everyone's aware of autism, but it's about accepting
Yeah.
uh, neurodivergent, autistic people as the same as everybody else, just different, looking at things differently. I saw a cool post yesterday. I think my wife posted on our foundation account, the To the Max Foundation account, where it said, if you have a group of apples and an orange is there, they don't say this is a non a low apple whatever
Yeah.
fruit. It's an orange. It's different, still a
Yep.
fruit, whatever. And then this is a logo here. She also through kind of reading and learning from autistic individuals, they don't really love the a lot of them don't love the puzzle piece. People still use it lots, and I'm not mad at them for it, but we decided to use something different, and the infinity kind of rainbow symbol was maybe more widely accepted in the autistic community, so that we picked that for our foundation's I guess logo, and we try to we're trying to drum some finances up to help in the short term and the long term. We're just getting going with the foundation. It's obviously just the start of year two, really.
Yep.
Our goal is to start this summer helping families that need assistance to, say, get speech therapy because it's not always covered by healthcare. To get a AAC device, which is like basically an iPad that helps them communicate if they can't talk. Max is starting to learn how to use one of those right now. So anything like that short term, then if things go great, long term goal, we want to have a center or a school or something like that for kind of the older kids and young adults because at least here the younger kids like Max are well supported. There's lots of
Yeah.
options for them, but as they get older, the options kind of dry up and they become less and less. So that's something we're, I guess, in a perfect world, if this all takes off and keeps going forward, we'll save for that. But right now, we just want to try and help some families in this area or, the near area uh, support their child a little bit better. So this year, and I'll stop talking in a second, but this year we're doing the coaches' shoes again with the auction. And I also got a bunch of players to donate items, signed items to the auction, which was also very touching to me because, you know, it's a, I don't like asking for things and just
Sure.
mentioning it and guys saying, "What do you need?" I'm in. So some of the names that we have in the auction are your guy Shea Alexander, jersey and shoes signed. A lot of Canadians, Nikhil Alexander Walker, Dylan Brooks, all my guys chipped in. Max Struess, who just took a loss last night as we record this with the Cavs. Lowry Markkinen and Walker Kessler from our team. Jason Tatum from Boston. So those guys, plus a few others, have donated some gear and shoes and stuff to be auctioned off. So we're hoping that we can do even better this year with the auction and start kind of building up our resources to invest for that long-term plan and also help out some families in the short term. Our second program that we're going to introduce this July is a golf tournament in Las Vegas during Summer League, hoping to tap into again some NBA teams that might sign up to play, some sponsors that want to be exposed to not only help us out but also exposed to kind of the NBA and corporate clientele that's around Summer League. And I also have some friends from back home or around Canada that are going to come in and play. So hopefully we get those two programs off and running this year, and then we can look at what's next after that.
Amazing. And all the items are on the 13th. Is that what you said? Correct? Everything's going to be live on the 13th. Yeah.
Yeah,
Shoes and yeah.
yeah, it'll be auctioned off through Sotheby's. Sotheby's has a partnership with the NBA, so they do a bunch of NBA auctions. This one's just us, the To the Max auction. and I believe it's May 13th to 20th, but we'll get the link posted on our site and hopefully your site and whoever else
Absolutely.
is willing to share it.
Yeah. Now, you know, you guys are still so young into the game, right? With, learning about Max and how you can support him and what's out there for other people. Obviously, also, you have a daughter as well who is quote unquote typical, right? So there's that too. I love the one that your wife shared about how she wanted to wear the headphones too in Hawaii. It kind of melted my heart a little bit. But thinking about your personal experience as a dad and you and your wife and where you are now, if you could go back or give someone advice about maybe someone who has, a child who's not typical, or you're wondering if there's some things like what would you go back and suggest or what worked for you as a family? So I think it's an important conversation to have. And I agree, like my son is full ADHD. He's completely oververbal, but he's definitely not typical, right? And so things like social settings, friendships are hard for him. He saves his worst behavior for us when he gets home because he's holding it in all day, right? And so as a parent, I think, as men, we're pretty horrible at talking about our feelings and emotions to begin with. And then when you have a family life and in the picture is just the white picket fence and everybody thinks is all great because that's what we share. But it's hard. It's freaking hard, right? And so when you think about your experience, what's out there in your mind that you think you might want to share with others just to make them understand that they're not alone, or if there's some advice that you would give? Kind of putting you on the spot, but you're smart.
No, that's fine. I'm not that smart. But it's funny you said about the feelings because my I hate feelings. What are they? I don't want anything to do with them. But my wife is always she's a big feelings person, as you can probably imagine. Anyway, she always talks about I guess like mourning's not the best word, but mourning, I guess the kid maybe or the person that we had envisioned when you have a kid. Like for example, Max, some autistic kids show regression. So like when they're born, they meet their first few milestones and then eventually they start to regress. So for Max, for example, one of the things he regressed in is he was when he was like 1 to 1.5, say, he was Aaron Judge on the flipping tee.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
dripping the tee. And in my mind, I'm like, this kid's gonna be playing for the Yankees. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's 1 year.
Yeah.
It's not fair, but every parent does that kind of stuff.
Sure. Yes. Yeah.
So then eventually he stopped wanting to hit the tee. He still could do it if he wanted to, but he just didn't want to.
Hmm.
And like no matter what I did, he wouldn't do it. Same thing with shooting a little, mini hoop. So he would do all that stuff, and I have all kinds of videos of him when he was really young, knocking down little jumpers. So I guess one of the things that was hard for me is realizing that all these dumb dreams and vision that I had for him, which was completely unfair to any kid, wasn't going to happen. And kind of I guess you know, life journey that he was going to have is completely different. Not worse or better or
Hmm.
anything, just different. And so from my wife, as she put it, you have to mourn, I guess, the change in your own mindset. And
Hmm.
if you'll forgive me to tell a quick story,
Please do.
the first year in Utah, I coached the G League team. So now obviously I'm with the Jazz, but that 1 year I was with the G League, and the G League's a lot about, I call it a master's in pro basketball. You're learning how to be a pro, more so than you're trying to win a championship. So it was constantly me giving these guys life lessons, like basically about life and how it relates to basketball. And one day we were talking about toughness. We actually had a rule: if we lost the last game, I could tell a story and teach something. If we won, I had to shut up. So one game we lost, and I thought we were being really soft. And what I was trying to explain to the guys is that no one gets out of life free, and the real tough things in life are not on the court. Like running back on defense or blocking out, we say as coaches it takes toughness, but that's not tough. Like tough is dealing with things in life, like real life stuff. Maybe someone has like a disease or a cancer, or you lost a loved one when you're young, or any age. And I felt like all of our guys probably have gone through something, or are going through something that's real, takes real toughness. So what I did, I brought the team in and I showed, instead of showing video that day, I showed videos of Max hitting the tee and shooting baskets, when he was really young. and then explain to them, what the regression was in autism and how I've had to learn some real tough things. Like this is tough. Raising a child with special needs is tough. Raising any child is tough, but it's even tougher when they have special needs and things like this. So, and I'm about 4 minutes in, I'm bawling, crying,
Mhm.
and the team's there, and they can see that I'm, sincere in what I'm saying. They're getting it. They're thinking of, maybe someone in their family that's struggling with something, or a loved one they lost, or something they went through that's traumatic. And I look back to the back of the room, and one of my assistants at the time also had a autistic son who was a little bit older than Max. He's bawling. So then I start crying more, and I guess that was a. It still makes me sad in some ways, but that was the day that I felt like I kind of got over that other thing. Like what my wife would say, more and what you thought it was going to be like. So that's my first advice is try to get through that. And it's not easy, but you got to get through it because it's not fair to your kid to be thinking about some stupid dream that you had for whoever, right?
Yep.
Because you can't be helping them for the future if you're always worried about the past. That goes for anything. The next piece of advice I would say is to try and get a good team around them. Again, depends on your resources, but scrounge, do whatever you can. And Max does. So Max, for example, like I said, does ABA therapy. We did a lot of research on ABA therapy. In the past, it was more controversial. It's not so much anymore, but some people still will Google it and get kind of how it was 20 years ago. So it's that's been great for us. And then speech, OT, all these things combined. The other part is to find therapists. And this is what my wife tells me. I'm just repeating what she says to me because I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah. I
But
think we
find,
already knew that, but that's fine. You're doing a good
yeah,
job of covering it up. Yeah.
find therapists that are willing to listen to the parent. So a lot of therapists are like, this is how you do it, just like a coach. A coach, you can't hire a coach to teach his system when the players are completely fitting a different system. You want to have a coach that's going to adjust to the players that they have and design a
Mhm.
system that makes them thrive. And that's how I understand it when my wife explains it to me. Like you have to have a team of therapists that are hearing no one knows their kid better than the mom or the dad or whatever. So like listen to the mom and dad. This is what the kid likes. This is what the kid does. This is what he reacts to or doesn't react to, and have their, I guess, plan for the therapy be a result of what the child or the kid is like or the person is like, not just throw the same cookie cutter therapy at them every time. And we've been lucky to find, I guess, an OT, a speech that do those things. Now, we weren't lucky the first time. We've gone through a bunch of speech and OTs, and sometimes you feel like the parents that aren't fun to coach their kid that because they always know better, and it's just, oh, we just need a new coach. But it's not like that. It's like, hey, they're not listening to anything that we're saying.
Yeah.
He's not reacting well to their method, but they're not even open to trying something different. We got to find someone else that at least will have a conversation. So those are probably my two biggest pieces of advice. One, obviously, to deal with it, and then one to help maximize the support and I guess hope for. I don't know what we're hoping for. Like we don't want to.
Mhm.
We're not trying to change anybody. We're not trying to change Max. We're just trying to help him thrive as
Yeah.
best he can in this world that doesn't always bend to what he needs or what he is. So um, that's probably the best way I can summarize it.
That's good. So it is, you're right. It's a grief process, right? You grieve what you had planned and then you move forward and then just that advocating piece is so big. And as he gets older and once he gets into the school system, right, which is as an educator, I hate to say it, in a lot of ways so broken. Like what we're doing, even with everyday kids, it's like so broken. So just that advocating piece and just being that, yeah, I'm not here to offend anyone, but I'm going to look out for number one, and that's Max. And I want him to be with the best situation, with the best foundation, so he can have the tools when he's 19, 20, 21, and working forward. So that's good stuff, man. Any other last kind of thoughts, ideas? We'll definitely get all the website links, all everything up for you, and those auction items. Check out To the Max Foundation. Is there any other way people can support or in their own communities? And it sounds like you guys are open to having people reach out, share stories, connect, because if anything, regardless if you can afford to, put a bid on a pair of shoes or not, I think, tell me if I'm wrong, is one of the main goals of this is not just awareness, but creating a bigger community around it and having people understand this is what we're going through and we need you to be a part of it to help others succeed, kind of thing, if what I'm saying makes sense.
No, for sure. I think that it helps to talk about it. Even for me doing something like this, it helps me, which is not the main goal of it all, obviously, but it's
No.
just kind of a side effect. So I encourage people to not be afraid to share their story or talk to people. In a sad way, I have come across some parents. There was a coach in the NBA. I won't obviously say who it was, but reached out to me one time. We were in their city and wanted to talk, and they were worried, or he was worried that their son was autistic, but they weren't sure. And but he didn't want me to tell anybody, and that's just fine. That's just his right. I'm sure I'll follow up with him when I see him in the summer league or whatever. But I try to tell him like, hey, the more you talk about it, the more you're going to feel okay. If it is something, maybe it's not. So don't be afraid to talk. The other thing I would say is, so my wife Suzanne, she runs kind of the foundation's social media, and she's like kind of the point person for dealing with a lot of things. I help with these little programs, but she's really the main source of intelligence and effort behind it. But and it's been very fulfilling in a lot of ways. Like to see the shoes on the coach's feet, or to see Eric Spoelstra talking about kind of the stuff we wanted to share as a message in his presser. To see Joe, showing that he's proud to be Max's godfather. Things like that is fulfilling to us, and helping people is fulfilling. Hopefully, we can do more of that. There was one day a couple weeks ago where I got home and my wife was crying, and hopefully she doesn't mind me sharing this, but I was like, oh, what's wrong? And she was crying because of the amount of messages she had gotten to our social media account with people that need help. So, they couldn't afford this therapy, or they couldn't afford this device, or whatever. And it was just hitting her hard that day because no matter how good, no matter how much, Chris Finch's shoes go for, we can't really help that much. You know what I mean? We're gonna do as much as we
Yeah.
can. So I guess just encourage people to, if they have extra income or extra money or extra time or whatever, to try and help out as much as they can if they do have it in their heart for this cause. Um, there is some big corporations out there that are doing lots of good things, but they also, I'm not sure that a small foundation like ours isn't even better sometimes to help out in your local community. Uh,
Hmm.
so if there's someone out there that's doing some work, maybe check it out. See that the money is going to the right spots and not to someone's pocket.
Hmm.
And then give what you can or help when you can. If you got a bunch of money, feel free to hit me up for the golf tournament, and I'll make sure that you get that to the right situation too.
Love it, man. Great stuff, great reflections. Couldn't agree more. I think it's just like in coaching. Like I'm sure you found the more you shared with others about your thoughts, opinions on X's and O's, you became a better coach as opposed to sitting there trying to figure it out all by yourself. So same thing, you have a kid who's going through it, or in my wife and our case, like we had 5, 6 miscarriages and ended up adopting because we just couldn't carry a baby. And so like sitting at home and burying that and not letting others know. And when people are like, "Oh, when are you going to have kids?" You know what I mean? Is like, well, none of your fucking business. But anyways, thanks for asking. And we're actually struggling and it's not going very well. And not to make people feel bad, but it empowers you a little bit to let you know that others, and just like you have mentioned 4 or 5 people, oh, this coach is an autistic kid, and this person, same with us, was like, oh, you know what, we had miscarriages too. So I think that's the power of sharing stories, which is why podcasting is great, but also being vulnerable enough with your friends and family to let people know that it's a struggle and this is what we're going through, and we don't need pity, but I need you to be on board and be with us, right? So lots of great takeaways today. Um, Last thoughts, ideas, man. Continued success to you, buddy. I know we'll continue to keep in touch. Hopefully, the Winnipeg Jets don't bow out in round 2 here for Larkins, and we could. Yeah, I mean, they almost tapped out last night. But last thoughts, ideas, and we're looking forward to seeing how that auction goes for you in a week's time. I guess just over a week's time. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's gonna be a big week for us because we have the draft lottery on Monday. Auction starts Tuesday. So yeah, just hoping that the auction goes well. It's a bit of a pain in the butt sometimes to, especially
Sure.
for comedians to bid on the shoes, but you can figure it out. And please check us out on our Instagram or our
Hmm.
website. If we can help somebody to get something going, let us know.
Selfishly, last year, I was really hoping to get a pair of shoes, and I would get annoyed when I got outbid. But I hope that I get outbid really quickly this year, and that means that there'll be more and more money going because it took a while. I had a few pretty low bids, on my teacher salary. And I was like, oh, maybe I could sneak a pair of shoes out. But this year, I'm really hoping that I send a bid in and I get an email quite quickly that I've been outbid. That would be the goal, I'd say.
Yeah, I hope so too. No offense.
No, none taken. I've got enough
Actually,
shoes.
the next step in this shoe program, I hope we can get it going, whether it's through Nike or somebody else, but we need to have a company willing to mass produce, not mass produce, but produce 100, 200 pairs of kind of generic version of the shoe that I showed you. And
Hmm.
because the amount of people that want to buy just a pair of shoes to help out is a lot. Um, we hope that these shoes are kind of outpricing a lot of the people that just want to, put a couple $100 down and support the cause. So we're hoping
Yeah.
next year we could get these custom made design mass produced. So if someone wants to just buy a pair of Air Force Ones for to the max autism acceptance, they can at a much cheaper rate, and we can make a couple bucks for the foundation off it, and more people will be wearing. So that's hopefully the next step.
Yeah.
Anybody's wondering how they get a pair of shoes. We get a lot of emails and messages, but that's fingers crossed we can do that next year.
Love it. Thank you for your time, sir. Always great to connect with you. Appreciate you as a friend. And continued success to you and your family. Beautiful things happening. When this episode comes out, if anybody has questions or they're not sure about how to make a proper bid, honestly, you can bother me too. I'd be happy to help you. I figured it out and I'm a dinosaur, so you'll be able to figure it out too. Big week for you next week, man. Hope it all goes well. And thank you for your time, sir.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, man. Thanks for doing this, and you're actually getting better at this.
Only took me 159. This is 160. So you're freaking, yeah. We'll
It's
have to
a
do another a little Larkins episode when you're in PEI again. Anyways, yeah, let's wrap it up there. He says I'm actually getting better at it. Right on. Thanks to all our listeners, and we'll see you on the next one.